and storm, I remain on. Through the fire and storm, I remain on. Trial by fire, trial by fire. It's the trial by fire. It's the trial through the fire and storm. I remain on.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for another episode of the Armchair Bookers podcast. I'm your host, as always, Joshua Joslin, and it is great to be talking wrestling. This week, I'm going to be talking about some recent headlines, just some things that are happening in the world of wrestling, some NXT. And then I'm going to end it by answering a couple questions from some friends/fans of mine that just, some friends that want to know a little bit more about wrestling. So let's get into it right now. AEW, this is not, real quick, I'm not bashing AEW. This is not a bash AEW episode. I did a lot of that last episode. If you're new to the Armchair Bookers podcast, this is your first episode. Last week, I ripped on AEW for quite a while. This week, I'm just going to talk about some things that are in the news that do paint AEW in a negative light. But I want to talk a little bit more about what that does for the fan viewing viewing outward, the fan towards AEW. It is off the dirt sheets here, so rumor, speculation, sources of sources. So just my opinion on things that I've read. For instance, Cash Wheeler, tag team wrestler with Dax Harwood, part of FTR and AEW. Cash Wheeler got himself arrested. What sounds like he's being charged with, what is possible road rage incident where he did point a gun at a driver for whatever reason that they had. Don't know. Not mine to judge. I am not on that jury panel. But it puts AEW in the news right before their biggest, hands down, their absolute biggest pay-per-view that they've ever had, all in, taking place in Wembley Stadium in England. So I point that out first. I start with that one because that's pretty big news no matter who it is, right? That's a pretty big thing that's happening. And then you shift it over to within the confines of the arenas, and you're talking CM Punk and the drama that he continues to bring to the locker room at the most recent or the past or whatever it was, a recent Collision taping. He had several wrestlers basically removed from the building, told they're not allowed to come in. That was Christopher Daniels, Ryan Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler's younger brother, and I believe Matt Hardy, Christopher Daniels, I don't know if I said him, because of things that are still lingering from the Brawl Out episode that happened months ago. If you have questions on that, I can answer at a different time. But there's still some obvious resentment and anger floating between some parties regarding that whole incident, and it puts AEW in the news, right? All of this going on while they're trying to build All In, their card and the hype for that show. Look, they're breaking records with their sales. To have an event in Wembley, sell it out, which it sounds like it's done, and then add in the floor seats, which it's a lot of floor to fill in with seats. You're talking a massive event, WrestleMania. This is their WrestleMania, the biggest event that they've ever had, and it's amazing that they've done it. I can't wait to see what comes of the show. But there are a lot of question marks about how the card has been built, the promotion for the card. There are a lot of tag team matches or multi-person matches. I know that's a New Japan style of card. If you look down their card, you're going to see a lot of trios matches. You're going to see a couple of 4-on-4s, a whole bunch of tag teams. So it is always a jam-packed amount of people on a card. But I don't think that it's the most beneficial. Just don't cram them all in for the sake of it, because you already struggle with your storytelling. So this just feels like dream match after dream match. It's going to get exhausting to see this many dream matches put on in a 4-hour, 3-hour event. It doesn't build it in a way that excites me because there's no kind of breathing room. If anything, you're promising a lot of tight top tier matches, and if they all hit, you're exhausted from it, in between, number one. So the pacing is going to be an issue for me as a fan. And two, there's so many people to keep your eyes on, so many things that you want to know, but you're not going to be able to because there's just too many people involved. So for me, that's a struggle point, but it doesn't take away from my enjoyment because I really, really love wrestling. So I know it's going to be a fun card. But there's a lot of concern. I think that putting a general opinion that I've come across in my readings and my feelings as well, Adam Cole and MJF on the pre-show is an interesting choice, and I think a gamble, not because, just because you never know, somebody could get hurt, but it's a great story, and I think, I feel like there's going to be some sort of miscommunication, which is going to lead to somebody getting angry and getting hit, and that's going to be the story throughout the rest of the night, back and forth between who's going to turn on who, and then we're going to get the main event, which is awesome and cool, except you're going to give away a lot of the storytelling at the very beginning, and that kind of then takes away from everything in the middle for me. So you're kind of bookending your best story, the only story that you're really telling, at the beginning and the end. It's going to get me to tune in, but maybe I won't come back again until the end. I don't know. I think it's risky. I think it doesn't make a ton of sense because Aussie Open already came out and it seemed like they have their next challenger. So it's just, this match is all about getting everybody on and to further the story between MJF and Adam Cole at Aussie Open's expense on the pre-show. I just think that that's just too much for me. So that annoys me. But they're the best story that they have, and I want to see as much of it as possible. So maybe they got me in there without me realizing it. I don't know. That's really the negative stuff I want to put on AEW. I want to talk about some of the really good things, the things that are really exciting me, and that begins with and ends with really Eddie Kingston back, baby, back, going up against the Blackpool Combat Club. I love that for Eddie. He's just great. I don't think he needs a belt. I don't think that he needs the constant main event. I think you just let him continue to do what he does. He's an organically over superstar that you will only ever want to be behind because he's gritty. He looks like a dude that you've known from the bar down on the corner. He's the uncle that, is oh man, when I tell you about it, you wouldn't understand about it, Uncle Eddie, what he used to be up to. That's the persona he gives off, but badass, excuse my language. So him coming back and challenging to another Stadium Stampede, like I mentioned last week, something I love about AEW, it is the Stadium Stampede. So I'm very happy that he is back. I'm happy that they're going to have another one of those matches, and I'm more than happier than happy because Eddie's going to be involved. So I love that he's back. I wrote down a question to myself. I was going to say the fan did it, but I got to be honest. It was a question I was asking myself. Where would we know Eddie without AEW? And I honestly say no, which makes me want to say thank you, AEW, for giving Eddie Kingston a platform for us to be able to see him every week. I would know him, from watching and from reading, but to be able to watch him every week, I would not have that opportunity. I'd have to tune in, and I'd have to find it and then tune in. This gives us the opportunity to see a clip from him every week that he's on. I love it. Keep doing what you're doing with Eddie, because no matter what he's in, he tells the story. He makes a story out of it, and I think he's the best you got in that regard. So glad Eddie's back. See, I like things with AEW. Stadium Stampede, I can't wait to see that with him and his partners. All right, so going to move on. I like that they are retiring the FTW Championship. I think that there's too many belts. I've mentioned that as a negative in my previous episode. But they're retiring it, and it's going from Jack Perry, formerly Jungle Boy. Jack Perry is now heel, which I like. And I'm curious what they are going to do with the retiring. So I'm going to go with Tommy Dreamer's idea. He thinks that Hook should return, win it, and then retire it. We had the full circle of it being presented to Taz. He was the first. It was made for him. The F the World champion. He handed it to Brian Cage. It's bounced around here or there. But if it's going to be retired, it should be by ECW alumni, or more than even them. I think it should be Hook as Taz's son. Should come out, beat him, take it. That would be really, really cool. Tommy Dreamer came up with that. I read that in an interview that he had done. And I do agree. Anyway, FTW Championship being retired, I think it's a good call. It's like the 24/7 championship, but less funny and never really with any explanation as to what it really was. So too gimmicky, not enough put behind it. They don't have enough stories to tell with all the other belts. So if they're going to retire one, I think the FTW one is a good one to retire. And I definitely don't think it can be retired by Jack Perry. Like, he can't be the one, the end point, the period on the end of the story of the FTW championship. So hopefully Tommy Dreamer is right. That'd be a cool way to retire it. So I want to, with all that being said about AEW, is the negative attention that they're in right now, the steady stream that is focused on them, is it really earned? Is it necessary to be so negative on the product? Now that I'm saying it out loud, I don't think that it is. I don't think that it is fair. I think that, yeah, I know I'm sticking up for AEW. It's not always going to happen. So turn up, and listen close. It's a young company. They're still learning. Tony Khan taking all of this on himself. He needs to learn where it's not going to work. And hopefully, it's hard because he keeps doing so well with his shows because people want to see them, and that's great. But the long-term stability of the product, it's going to start to wane if it's always based off of these dream matches. I was talking to a friend of mine today, like how many, there are only so many dream matches that you can have before you have to refocus on the young talent who still haven't really gotten the biggest match. They aren't in the dream matches. The vets are in the dream matches. And it does hook us in and makes us interested, but that's not long-term. So this isn't me knocking the product. This is me going back to the fact that they're young, and hopefully they learn this a little bit quicker than not. If they're going to build a show like a WrestleMania show, if that's what their intention is with something like Wembley and All In, do that, but not every pay-per-view like you've done. That's really it. Spread them out. Because who we are going to get to see is awesome. I think the American audience might have to get used to a card being stacked with so many multi-person matches, because I do think that Tony books more off of a New Japan style than even like an American style. So, or like a Lucha Libre style, AAA, they tend to have a lot of multi-man matches, like I said, New Japan. So anyway, I do get why he's building the card, just be careful with it. The negative press is brought on by, the only thing that I really point to Tony on is the CM Punk stuff. True, not true. Something, what I've read is not the whole truth. What somebody might say is not the whole truth. There's somewhere in the middle. And where the middle is CM Punk and some issues with talent. So hopefully that gets figured out and he doesn't get burned by CM Punk. I really hope that doesn't happen. I am pro company on this end and not pro Punk at all. I think that something needs to be done. You can't have one person control the show. He is not Shawn Michaels in the 90s. And we all know all the stories about that. They weren't great. So don't revisit that, Tony. Don't make that mistake. Anyway, I want to move over to WWE. I want to talk about Edge retiring before I jump into some stuff about NXT. That's all the speculation, of course, is that Edge retired on this past Friday, after wrestling Sheamus. A very fun match, very good. It wouldn't go down as like the greatest retirement match of all time. Probably wouldn't be in the top 100 even. But that wasn't really the point. It was to see him hit some spots. The Toronto crowd, of course, because he's from there, was bonkers for him. Any crowd would have been, knowing that it might be towards the end of him wrestling. Any crowd would be anyway, because it's Edge and he always puts on a show. Even if the match in terms of length and like quality, it was a fine match. There was nothing bad. It didn't do anything bad or wrong. But, it was just a fine match. But they showcased everything great with the facial expressions. They told the story as it needed to be told, which is Sheamus is his powerhouse and he's going to beat Edge down no matter what, despite the fact that they were friends, despite what they'd said about each other last week, which was just love and mutual respect. In real life, Sheamus helped Edge get himself back into ring shape and motivated him to be able to come back to the ring. So this match legitimately had emotion to it. His kids and Beth Phoenix, his wife, were in the front row. see him hug them, see his emotion coming out to the crowd. If it was his last match, that's all the stuff that matters. The match itself is kind of like, oh yeah, it happened, and that's fine. That's the point of it, because Edge is that kind of character where you want to see him come out. You want to watch his face, man. You want to talk about facial expressions. Him and Randy Orton, probably two of the best in terms of playing to the crowd. Sheamus knew exactly when to introduce the heel, the bad guy moves. Edge knew how to play to the crowd with the beat down that he really, really did get. He took a beating from Sheamus. They both, not like Sheamus and Edge need to be elevated, but they were both elevated with this, which is just a testament to both guys. I am a Sheamus ultra fan. He'll go down in history as an underrated wrestler. Hall of Fame, definitely, but he will still be considered an underrated performer in my eyes, similar to The Miz, to be honest, in terms of quality and longevity, and really, yeah, just quality and longevity. They both have it. They both, but they're not the 15, 20, 30-time championship belt winners, but they're always consistent. They're always putting on a good show. That's my gushing about Sheamus, but it added to the possibility of Edge retiring, because you felt the emotion, you saw it. So if it was his last match, applause from the top of my lungs. Thank you. On my feet, stomping my feet, clapping my hands. Thank you, Edge. He did tell the crowd after the show, this is his last time in front of. He said, "This is my last time in front of y'all." And then said, his goodbyes, basically. Whether that means he's retired, not necessarily. His contract ends at the end of September. This was his last match on the contract. So, maybe we'll see some clarification one way or the other. But it does mean, it's very, very short term. If he is to come back, it would be short term, because they're not expected to go back to Toronto, and he wouldn't. By the time they do, he doesn't expect to be around anymore. So the fact that he's saying goodbye to a city means he's definitely towards the end. Obviously, we knew that anyway, but maybe closer than not. So we'll see. Moving into NXT, I haven't talked to NXT yet. The overall product, I'm a black and gold version 1 enthusiast. That's when it was Triple H and Shawn Michaels, before the color splash, NXT color splash, but now we are back into the black and gold, which I like it, and I do like the product. I have to watch it a little bit more to know some of the younger kids that are still coming up through it, but the talent is superb. I got to catch this past week's episode. Wes Lee is growing each week. I think he's phenomenal. I think that he has a bright future. He's got to find what is going to make him stand out besides the underdog part, but he plays it so well, and he really is. I mean, he's making the most of every time they give him the camera, and I applaud him greatly. I want to see what they're going to be able to do with him moving forward. Carmelo Hayes, that's my guy. He is him. Carmelo versus Wes, I don't think you're going to do better athletically than what you're going to see with the two of them. It is going to be a show watching them fight for the NXT Championship. So congrats to Wes. Very quickly elevated himself, through the ranks at NXT. I was a little bit curious where he was going to go once Zachary Wentz was released, who was Wes Lee's tag team partner. But he kept himself relevant. He had great matches. They put the North American Championship belt on him, and away he went and just stole the attention and built himself into a character that's over. So I can't wait to see the two of them go. They're going to put on a classic. I'm going to say this name wrong. Ilya Dragunov. Damn. You want to talk about gritty and strong. He's just a legitimate torpedo. Such emotion. You want to talk about tapping into that anger vein in your neck and your head. He hits it. Man, such energy. He makes you just want to watch, because he's going to, he's going to put a beating on, and he's going to be able to take a beating just by the way he presents himself. He is just fired up constantly. I love it. The fact that he's going against Trick Williams, and that Trick is not breaking up with Carmelo, but is shifting away to more of a singles run. He is beyond, it's beyond time for him. what a look. Obviously, he has the mic skills. I mean, he was on the mic more than Carmelo, which is crazy because Melo's great on the mic. So to have a mouthpiece like Carmelo had and Trick Williams, and now for him to be able to, say it about himself, sky's the limit for him because, like I said, he's got the look, he's got the build, clearly the mic skills. This is a huge match for him. It's really going to get to show him off away from Carmelo and against a bonkersly good wrestler in Dragunov. He's a former NXT champion. He beat Gunther, who was in a historic run with the NXT belt, NXT UK belt. So you're going to buy in. You're going to watch this guy fight, whether he's the underdog or not. He's a smaller guy in most matches, but man, he's a pit bull. So him versus Trick, can't wait to see that. Baron Corbin going down to NXT. I love Baron. Put him in the category of Miz and Sheamus, but even more so. He's in the Ziggler category where you're talking about really no belts, but damn is always able to perform. Baron Corbin, I gush about this dude. I will go to bat for him as one of the best in WWE because he will do anything they ask. He does it well, and he gets whatever they give him over in some form or fashion. I love what Baron Corbin's doing. He's going to elevate people down there. To see him still involved. Hopefully that goes a little bit longer, but I think it should pay off. He should get a payoff by getting back to the main roster and getting a main event run. I don't think he deserve. I should not say deserve. I don't think he needs the big belt. I don't think maybe a transition champion at some point, but I don't know if they can rebuild him to that level. He's kind of going back and forth. But like I said, he'll make you believe. So whatever they give him, hopefully they find something bigger for him. But love Corbin's work, always do. Speaking of the UK stars in Dragunov, they're all over NXT. They are doing big things all over NXT. You got the Metaphor with Noam Dar heading that. Tyler Bate is one of my favorite. Oh my gosh. You want to talk about strong British strong style. There you go. Great wrestler. Love watching him. Multiple other NXT UK stars. The Dyad is probably the only thing that is really disappointing me. Joe Gacy is a very cerebral type of wrestler. Put him with Bray Wyatt. That would be amazing. Watch the two of them go. Bray Wyatt, Karrion Kross, and Joe Gacy. Make them into a stable, and you want to run some creepiness through that place. There you go. I mean, they would just take it to another level. But the Dyad as it exists, not working. Just not working. I'm not even sure why. Beyond the fact that they don't win any matches. Beyond the fact that I do know why. They don't win any matches. They don't really come through with what they're saying. It doesn't make any sense. They've added more members and have lost more, in terms of all the masks. I just don't see it working, and I guess that they don't really either because Rip Fowler and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the other guy's name, are done with their contracts in NXT, so they'll be moving on. They're not renewing. So the Dyad is, half of them are leaving, so I guess they're going to be done with it, which I can't say is a bad thing. It just doesn't make sense as to what they're doing, with them. So repackage Joe, let him lean into his creepiness, but let him show it in the ring, and you're going to be happy with what you get. Love Joe Gacy. All right, so moving on to the main roster stuff, the U.S. Championship. Look, the U.S. belt is not the Intercontinental belt. It is not on the same level, not even close. The stuff with Escobar and Mysterio is just mysterious to me. Escobar just being this cheerleader for Ray, it doesn't feel right. It feels like Escobar is faking a lot of it, which is fine. If he turns on Ray, great, but why not sooner? No matter when it happens, why not sooner? Because now he has the belt that you had a chance to get. You got hurt. It's convoluted in terms of where it's going. I don't even know if he's going to turn on Ray. Obviously, Ray's not going to turn. So I don't know what they're doing, but they're botching it all over the place with Theory, up, down. He beats Cena in the worst built program in Cena's career, probably. I say that in jest, but not in too much jest. Just a struggle. So they have all this great mid-card talent, but finding the footing with the U.S. Championship, they're not focusing on that. And hopefully they do with Ray having it, because he can reestablish it and make it more prestigious. but it's also a belt that I feel like is going to be passed around a little bit over the next few months. Hopefully it settles in with somebody that can hold it, like Gunther has with the Intercontinental Championship, which is, Gunther is just incredible. That belt is incredible. The prestige is back on that thing. So hopefully they can figure out a way with the U.S. belt. All right, so they were my big topics. They were my main topics, the big things I wanted to cover. Before I duck us out of here, I want to take just a couple minutes to answer a question that a friend of mine asked. And he asked, what are the differences really in the wrestling techniques that we hear about? I'm going to keep it short so I can expand on it in a different episode. But basically, I would say that the three big styles, then they're broken down. I'll get to that. The three big styles would be strong style, which is based out of Japan primarily, or originated in Japan, which is a blend between American style storytelling, but with martial art type strikes. So a lot of elbow strikes, a lot of knee strikes. Stiff, meaning they look hard, looking like they're really hitting. Elbows to the neck. Big knees off the belts, off the ropes. A lot of knees to the face. Strike, kick work. It's a lot. It's a brutal style if it's the first time you're watching, because it really sucks you in. Like, oh my God, they're clubbing each other, and it sounds like it, looks like it. Not my favorite style, because it makes me feel like somebody is actually going to get hurt, and I'm always looking at you, Kota Ibushi. You always look like you're getting hurt, and you have been a lot. So just be careful. If you want to watch a match that you're going to really highlight all that, of course, you're going to go Okada versus Omega. Watch any of the three that they've been in together. Also watch AEW, strong influence and strong style in AEW. Shinsuke Nakamura is an example in WWE. Lucha Libre style is probably the most popular style of wrestling, based out of Mexican style wrestling, high flying maneuvers, top rope, out of the ring, Hurricane Ranas, chaotic, fast paced. Most of the wrestlers typically wear masks, the Lucha Libre masks. Quick movements. Not a lot of selling, but it's spot to spot, and it's breathtaking. There's times where you feel like you don't see anybody even touch the ground. They're just in the air hitting moves. And if you want to see one of the greatest matches of all time in that style, you're going to watch Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero. That was at Halloween Havoc 97. The other style, the last one I'll kind of mention, would be the catch as catch can. That's like a grappling submission to submission hook and holds style wrestling. I love it. It's a lot of bending of joints. It's a lot of mat work. You're not going off the top rope. This is all bending and twisting and seeing if you can get somebody to scream, "I quit." Cool style. It's the best reference. Recent references would be, again, AEW has a lot of it, but a great present day style would be Ring of Honor Unified 2006. You had Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness. Any of their matches together, you're going to see that catch as catch can style. And then, of course, you have traditional, which is a blend of a little bit of everything. But there's a lot of different styles broken down in between those. I mentioned British strong style, which is strong style based off of a little bit of catch versus catch as catch can. And it's kind of combined into a really nice blend. I mentioned Tyler Bate. I also want to say Pete Dunne, right now known as Butch. But watch them, the two of them wrestle over the NXT UK Championship. I forget the date on that, but just Google Dunne versus Bate, UK NXT UK Championship. I think you know what to Google. I think you guys are all bright enough for that. So I'm going to stop with that and move on and say thank you for listening. Next week I'll be talking about, I'll be answering a couple more fan questions and checking out some more headlines, seeing what's going on as we build to some more big shows in between the big shows with WWE. But All In continues to be built and continues to be announced. Things continue to be announced. Anyway, thank you again for listening. Before I let you leave, don't forget, while you wait for my newest episode to drop, you can find previous content such as interviews and old episodes with new content on the way on the Armchair Bookers Podcast YouTube channel, our Facebook page, TikTok, and our IG. Like, follow, subscribe, comment, do all those fun things so I have something to talk about. Shout out to John Kiernan, my producer, the amazing artist behind my theme, Into the Fire, featuring Mont Easy, which you can find on iTunes. Thanks you again, and with that being said, Throw me into the fire that is wrestling podcasting, John. Thank you for listening. Talk to you next week. Deuces.